I am craving burnt ends, and on today's video, I'm going to be smoking up some brisket burnt ends on my Yoder Frontiersman. Stay tuned. All right, before we get started, I wanted to show you guys the process of what I do to get my firebox going. This is a question that I often get asked, and I got several viewers that would like to see how I start my firebox. Okay, so obviously I took out all the ash. I actually take out one of the grates and shovel out all the ash. Make sure I get out as much as possible, especially on the left side, because I do put some splits of wood on the left side to heat up. Because a hot split of wood is going to ignite a lot faster. So if you have any ash or kindling on the bottom of the left grate, that'll get hot and it might start your splits on the left side. So I like to clean out both sides. So this is where we're at. I do start with a full chimney of Kingsford blue charcoal. Okay, and I dump it in on the far right side. I am wearing a glove, a leather glove. Okay, so just dump it in, kind of spread it out, just like that. So now that I've got my charcoal in there, what I do is I drop probably, these are small splits, so I'm going to put in 3 splits of wood from the top. Okay, this is from the top door. Just put 3 splits in there. These are kind of small, so I'm going to start with 3. Just put them right on top of that charcoal on the far right side. Okay. So at this point, I just let that wood catch with the door open. The door open and the hatch open, the top door. Okay. And I also opened up my exhaust all the way, and I will not close the door or the hatch on the firebox until that is fully engulfed in a flame. And then at that point, I will close the hatch, close the door, but with the vents on the door completely open. Okay, and that starts to allow smoke to flow through my smoker. This Yoder Frontiersman is pretty big, and it's about, I don't know, 60 degrees outside today, so it's not terribly cold, but on a winter day, the smoker can be really cold. In fact, it'll start to sweat, okay, because the metal is cold and you're putting some hot air through it. So it'll start to sweat a little bit, especially around that firebox. So you want to do this probably an hour before you start to smoke, just to get the pit itself up to temperature and get it ready to cook. So this is just what I do. Again, this is what I found works best for me. So as you can see, these splits are still catching. Probably another 5 minutes or so. Then I'll close the hatch, close the door, open the vents all the way, and then again my exhaust is open, and I'll let the pit come up to temperature. So just wanted to show you guys this before I get started. Stay tuned. All right, so what we're starting with is a brisket flat and a brisket point. I did film a video on how I separated the brisket and trimmed this up to this point. If you want to see that, hit that card right up here so you guys can look at that after you watch this video. So I've never made brisket burnt ends out of the flat portion of the brisket. I have made burnt ends out of the point, but I'm going to give it a shot and see if this will turn out some good burnt ends. Now this is a certified Angus beef choice brisket, and I did leave some fat, not a whole lot of fat, on the flat portion of it because this is a leaner piece of meat. Now you probably don't want to try this with a select because that is really lean. This has some really good marbling in the meat. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's not a prime and it's not a select. It's kind of your in-between brisket. I actually like to smoke these. I've smoked these in the past, and I went to primes and really never went back, but there's nothing wrong with getting a choice brisket. Now this point end looks really good. This has a lot more fat within the meat here, but I did trim pretty much all of the fat off the top and the bottom side of this brisket point here. Okay, so as far as the rubs that I'm going to use, I'm going to do the fat side first on the flat portion of it. This is a rub that Victory Lane Barbecue is working on. It's not out yet, but this is the final sample, if you will. So that's what I'm going to use. It will be a brisket rub, a beef rub, a good hearty, savory rub. So this is the final sample, and I got to tell you, I tasted it out of the bottle. It's really good, but it's not out yet. Obviously, I'm going to let you guys know when it releases. Okay, so put enough of this rub. You can see how much pepper, and it's got a good coarse pepper on this brisket. Got a nice red color. And I really liked it out of the bottle. We might tweak it a little bit more, but it tastes good. Okay, get my point. I'm using a lot of rub, okay? I'm gonna show you the process on how to make really good brisket burnt ends, so don't skip this video. You don't wanna miss this. Okay? Now this point will shrink on you. Not so much the flat, but this point you'll see it's gonna turn into a small square. And that's what you want. Okay? As I mentioned, I'm gonna be smoking this in my Yoder Frontiersman. My big offset. These are gonna be some delicious burnt ends. Put enough rub, get the sides, get the edges. You guys can see the coarse pepper in there. Good stuff. Smells delicious. Okay, now this is gonna sit on my counter for probably 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. Let that rub sweat in. Push in there, push that rub in there. You will lose some of it, obviously, but that's okay. That's why I use a lot of rub. Get the edges. All right, so this is gonna sweat in again for probably 15-20 minutes. I've already got my smoker fired up. I'll see you guys outside. Stay tuned. All right, so my smoker is up to temperature. I'm at 300 degrees on the bottom and the top grate, and that's what I'm gonna be smoking at, okay? So let's put our flat in first. And this firebox is roaring. So this brisket is sweated in nicely. Just put it right in, right there. Okay, and let's get our point in. Now the point does have a thicker part and a flat part. Okay, so I'm putting the thicker part towards that firebox. So I'm gonna check in probably in about an hour. And I'm gonna go ahead and flip them, possibly spritz at that point. So we'll see you guys in about an hour. Stay tuned. All right, so we're 1 hour into the cook now. Let's take a look at this brisket. Oh yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and spritz just a little bit on the top side. I'm gonna go ahead and flip these, okay? Look at this point. Man, it's looking really good. Look at that char. Hope you guys can see that char right there. That is perfect. Look at the thick portion of the point towards the firebox. Just in case you guys are wondering, I do have this baffle that comes right out of the box, of the firebox, about 6 inches out, which is letting some of the heat from the firebox come in through the top of the brisket, okay? Now I still have a lot of heat on the bottom, but that's my current setup there. So look at that char right there, that's beautiful. I'm actually gonna move this point in a little bit closer. I'm sorry, the flat, just a little bit closer to that firebox. Man, it's looking really good. Got some good char on there. Give it a little bit of spritz. I'm using apple cider vinegar and water. I gotta tell you right now, they look really, really good and it smells amazing. That rub's got a nice color. Got a little bit of char marks on the brisket as well. So we'll check back in about another hour. And if I like the color at that point, I'm going to go ahead and wrap. So stay tuned. All right, so we're 2 hours into the cook now. And it is time to wrap the point and the flat. I want to show you the point here real quick. Look at that. It's got some really nice color. Again, when you're making brisket burnt ends, you know, you're not too worried about the bark, although this has a really nice bark. But you just want to get a nice color on it. You know, the rub that I'm using has a nice red color. Got some pepper, got some char marks in there as well. So next step is to kind of build a small boat, if you will. Just like this. It's a little windy out here, which makes it a little tough. But we'll get it. Okay. So just make a little boat like this. Okay. Folding the foil in. At this point, I've got some of the Cosmos Cube brisket mop, and I mixed it. This is what, a 14-ounce bottle? Well, a 13.5-ounce bottle with 14 ounces of beef broth. And I mixed it up in the shaker. That's what I have in here. So I'm just going to pour. I don't want to cover the entire point, but I do want to add enough of this. And the reason I make the boat is so that I can see exactly how much of this sauce that I'm putting inside of it. Because again, I don't want it completely covered. So it gives me an idea of where I'm at. So just like that. So at that point, go ahead and fold the edges over. Okay. And I'm going to double wrap this in foil. Just like this. Nice and tight. All right, this is going back in the smoker. Let me show you that flat. And again, this is 2 hours in. Look at this color. Look at that color. It looks really good. Okay, so same process with this one. Just make your little boat. Fold the edges in. You can use a pan if you want to, but I like to use foil. Then lift up the edges. Put your sauce in there. This is again Cosmos Cube brisket mop and beef broth, 50-50. So this is a little bit bigger piece, so I'm going to put a little bit more broth on this one. Actually, I'm just going to put the whole thing in there. That's going to make some really nice au jus. Okay, so that's why you want to double wrap it. Just like this. Fold it up. Keep all the juices in there. Just like that. Turn it. Go ahead and wrap it up. So I'm going to put this back in my smoker for probably about an hour. And I'll bring you guys back at that point, so stay tuned. All right, so we're 3 hours into the cook now. And I did check the internal temperature about 30 minutes ago. And I was at 198. I'm at 200 right now on the point. About 202 on the flat. But they're still not tender. Not where I want them to be anyway. So I'm going to move them a little bit closer to that firebox. Give it another 30 minutes. I think at that point they'll be tender enough. I'm going to go ahead and pull them off at that point. Put them in a foil pan. And put them inside my Cambro for about an hour. And I'll bring you guys back at that point. So stay tuned. All right, so 3.5 hours into the cook now. And I just opened this up. But I wanted to show you what to look for burnt ends. So look at that. Like butter. Just the weight of the thermopin pretty much. On the thinner part, it's extremely tender. Okay, so at this point, I'm just going to pull it off. Put it in a foil pan. This is a large foil pan that I've got here. I'm going to cover it up. Actually, let's check the flat since we're here. Oh, my shelf is stuck for some reason. There we go. Looks like it had some grease on the rail. All right, so here's the flat. Oh man, that thing looks good. Got a piece of foil there from where I was probing. That's one thing you got to be careful with. If you're probing through the foil, you'll get pieces like that. So here we go. You know, still a little bit of resistance on the flat. Some parts of it is actually pretty tender. You know, I'm gonna go ahead and cover it up. I'm gonna leave this in for another 10 minutes before I pull it, and then I'll put it in the same foil pan, cover it up, put it in my Cambro. So I'm gonna let this rest for about an hour, and I'll bring you guys back. Stay tuned. All right, so I've got my brisket point and my brisket flat ready. They have been resting for about an hour now. And by the way, the flat took about 15 more minutes, and then it was nice and tender, okay? Now, traditionally burnt ends are just done with the point end, but I wanted some burnt ends out of the entire brisket, so you're gonna have a really tender piece here, and the flat is gonna have a little bit more texture, maybe a little bit more firmer, and I'm okay with that, okay? It's still gonna be delicious. So at this point, just gonna grab my brisket knife, okay, and cut some nice straight strips. You see here? These are really popular in barbecue competitions. This is not a barbecue competition. I'm just gonna enjoy them for game day. Okay, nice and straight lines. And that's good. Okay, then we're gonna turn these and make our squares. Man, this is super tender. Just like that. You're gonna have some pieces that aren't perfectly square, and that's perfectly okay. Okay. Let me get one of these to show you guys. Look at that. Good little smoke ring. Okay. And the flat, I'm sorry, the flat, same exact thing. Really nice and tender. Now again, these are going to be a little bit more firmer, but again, as you can see, still really tender. Okay. Look at that. It's ridiculously tender. Turn the brisket flat, and same thing. Go ahead and make your burnt end cubes. This chopping board's moving on me. And it smells delicious, delicious, delicious. One more cut. There we go. So these are definitely more tender. The point end of it. But look at this. Good smoke ring as well. Okay. So the next step, but this is firmer again, but that's what I wanted. Okay. Now the next step is to move all the burnt ends to one side. I'm going to put them on this rack, just like this, kind of tight actually. I'm going to put all the squares together, just like this, maybe separating them a little bit, because I want some of the sauce to get in there as well. Okay, just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and put them all on the sheet, and I'll bring you guys back. Stay tuned. All right, so let's give these burnt ends a taste. Let's give the traditional burnt end, which is the point, a try first. Now these are definitely smaller, as you can see, but a lot more tender, really, really tender. So here we go. Wow. It's like super tender. Delicious. Like one of my salesmen says, delicious. Adrian, that's for you. Now, I'm gonna try one of the pieces from the flat, which is, I'm gonna get this one here. Now this one, because it has less fat in it, it's still gonna be tender, but not as tender as the point brisket, okay? So, but I like this. Actually, my daughter tried it earlier and she absolutely loved it. And again, you get a nice smoke ring throughout the entire burnt end. Really savory, that rub that I used is really savory, really beefy taste. And you know, the sauce on the top has a little bit of sweetness. So here we go. This is the flat portion of the brisket. Wow. Call me nuts, but the flat is more tender. I didn't expect that. Okay, so look at this. This came off of the flat. Big old hunkin' piece, but really tender. Hope you guys like this video. Give these a shot for game day or just a snack. Sorry, I'm talking with my mouth full, but that's okay. Hit that subscribe button. Ask me any questions. Until next time, Joe, Smokin Joe's Pit Barbecue. See ya.